Yes. Yeah.
Beautiful. Okay. So I'd love to introduce the very beautiful Dana Mrkich, and she is an energy intuitive, holistic coach, writer, speaker, and teacher. And we had a wonderful session, a roundtable session with some other women, and I really loved your contribution, Dana. So I felt a real draw to connect with you again and do this interview. And, I really love your energy, and you have a great ability to express your truth, I found too, in the round table. So thank you for being here. And I'm really excited to chat with you today and talk to you about this incredibly full-on intense situation we're going through here in Australia. And I'm in Victoria. You're in New South Wales?
Yeah, I'm in Sydney. Yeah, I'm in northern beaches of Sydney, so about 25 minutes north of the city.
Okay, that's interesting. We can talk about the difference in the states as well. But we have so much to talk about. What I'd like to start with is just get a little bit of background about you and, where you've come from and why you are the person that you are now.
Well, firstly, I would just like to say thank you so much for having me on today, and thank you just generally for everything that you're doing and for the round table that you created a week or so ago for us. I think one of the most important things at this time is discussion, communication, information, and helping everybody to not only share their truth, but I think we give other people courage to share their truth and to ask questions and to feel safe to ask questions. So thank you very, very much for everything that you're doing with that.
Thank you.
So my background, my gosh, where do I start? I guess my background, I've always known, as long as I can remember, even from the time of a little girl, that we were here to create a new reality. We were here to create a new earth. I didn't obviously have that cognitive ability to word it in that way when I was little, but I do remember, just looking around, feeling like I'd been dropped off on another planet, feeling very, very, it was just so foreign to me. I remember the first time when I started to work in the city and everyone was working 9 to 5, and I just remembered feeling this doesn't feel how this earth is supposed to feel. And I would have visions of a completely different world, different reality. People were working in harmony with each other, with the environment. There was, peaceful communities. People were doing what they loved. There was creativity. There was natural healing. And, for a little while, I didn't know if that's some, just a vision or a past life memory or something that I was here to help create. And over time, I obviously realized that was something that I am here to help create, as are a lot of other people. So after a very, very brief time, I always wanted, at school, I wanted to be a journalist. And it's really interesting because every time I tried to go down that pathway, I would just get shut door. I just couldn't get in there. And so I started doing things at least that were involved with writing. I'm talking when I was very young, 19, 20 years old. I was working in the 5-star hotel industry doing marketing and PR and stuff. But I would either cry at the end of the day, or I'd be doing secret readings for people in the offices. And quite early on, my early 20s, I think, is when I had that real push to really go into what I call my real work. I started getting more and more requests for readings, and every single time that I went that way, life was easier for me. So I would get requests for readings. I would, start writing articles about mind, body, spirit type stuff. Those sort of articles were accepted, right? So if I tried to become a mainstream journalist, no, forget about it. So really, I just kept going with the flow of my natural river. Like you, I had a couple of radio shows about, truth seeker, visioning the dream awake, interviewing, thought leaders and spiritual teachers. I've written a book, A New Chapter, which is really about this time now, which is about the shift that we're in. I've always felt that we are here to create a new reality, and that our reality thus far has been, for lack of a better word, controlled, hijacked by a group of people who work behind the shadows, where a lot of people don't realize that these people are in control. Because, of course, we have governments, we have politicians, then we have the mainstream media kind of sending out their messages. But then we also have, you know, puppeteers that are maneuvering a lot of that behind the scenes. And something that I say a lot is that, you know, I believe in choice and freedom, and authentic freedom, not fake freedom, not the illusion of freedom. So if you are looking at 3 doors and you think those 3 doors are your choice, but there's actually 10 doors that exist, that's not choice, right? It's only choice when we get to see all of those 10 doors. And, you know, what we're seeing now is the veil opening, so we can see all of the 10 doors. And some of them are really ugly, and some of them are beautiful and amazing and full of potential and healing and a new world. And some of them are the truth of the shadowy forces that have been running this planet. And I really love breaking down that word apocalypse, which, as you might know, is the Latin for apocalypsis, which means revelations, revealing that which is hidden. So we are in that time of apocalypse, but with that original meaning, which is revealing, lifting the veil, seeing what's behind, seeing the Wizard of Oz behind the shadows and the screens. And then on a more one-on-one, I'll take a break.
I just want to say, it's interesting, that word, because, you know, we've always interpreted it as meaning like an Armageddon or apocalypse, you know, where everything is destroyed. So that's a very different take on or definition of what that word actually means. So that's good to know. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's very interesting how, like many words, you know, the Hollywood movie system has completely, you know, hijacked that word and made it something that people are fearful of, whereas it's actually really something that we should be celebrating and cheering on, and it is what's happening now. And then and then I also do, and, you know, for the last 20 years or so, I've been doing, you know, one-on-one sessions with people, just help. I see myself as a bit of an energy archaeologist. So just going in and helping people see what's going on in their energy field that is creating patterns that they would like to stop repeating, and essentially just helping people be who they really are. That's my, you know, my biggest mission is for people to be who they really are, for our world and our planet and humanity to be who we really are. And that's a different thing for everybody, but you do you. Like, I'm all for choice and freedom, and that's what I am, really. So that's in a nutshell, as nutshell as I can make it. Yeah.
Thank you. That's a fantastic summary. It is hard to summarize your whole life in a few sentences, so you did a great job. And it's interesting, the parallels we both have. You know, I do similar energy healing work, and your emphasis on freedom. I had a centre in here in my township called Freedom Light Collective, so I've always had an enormous attraction to that word and what it means, you know, the liberation of humanity and our souls, you know. So what I'd like to ask you at the minute is, you know, there is this palpable fear out there, because many people can see the 3D matrix really revealing itself, and all the you know, dark, deep things that are so, you know, the hole goes so deep that we actually don't want to look right to the bottom, because we don't want to really see what's there. But there's so much unfolding, you know, the pedophilia, the grabbing for power, this, you know, push for mandatory vaccinations, the push for mask wearing. Masks are, in my mind, so dehumanizing, and so they're making us all the same. We can't breathe properly. There's a lot of symbolism in mask wearing, but nobody wants to get a fine either. So we feel that many people feel that they don't really have a choice. So in the midst of all this and all the fear that's coming up for people, how do we navigate through that? Because you and I know that the light has won. The light is going to win, and the light has won. But right at the minute, it looks like there's this horrific new world order coming in our state in Victoria. The restrictions are so incredibly draconian and intense. And Dan Andrews is really trying to put himself in a lifetime position as Premier by getting past the state of emergency 6 months period, so he can then bypass the laws and be permanently in that position with his lockdown agenda and his mandatory vaccination agenda and all that sort of stuff. So, this is what a lot of people are seeing right now. And I really want to help people to have a perspective that although they can see that and it's all there and it's all unfolding, how can we get past that? How do we navigate this time period that is so incredibly intense, and it could even get more intense before it gets to the silver lining? What's your thoughts on that, Dana?
Yeah, that's such a good question, and I think that's something that so many people are wondering at the moment. How do they navigate through it? And also, it's something that's changing from day to day, because
yes.
I remember
wake up in the morning and think, oh my God, what's going to happen? What's the next story?
Exactly. I remember just a couple of days ago, I was talking to an aunt, and she said, oh, how's everything down in Sydney at the moment? And I said, oh, we're doing okay at the moment. It seems relatively as close to normal-ish as it's been in a while. Jackson's off to school, and he's doing his soccer, and literally an hour later, every single parent in New South Wales got the latest directives from the New South Wales Health Government, saying that children, aside from staying home if they've got cold and flu symptoms, which that had been the case since March anyway, that they were encouraging testing, and that they were encouraging not to return to school until they had a negative test. And what was very interesting was it appeared that some schools had just forwarded that directive on as is. So, if you have COVID symptoms, we encourage a test. Other schools had rewritten the letter and said if your child has cold and flu symptoms, not COVID, cold and flu symptoms, they must get a test. So obviously, they're rewriting, New South Wales health directives, and that's causing a lot of fear and panic in parents, a lot of confusion.
Yeah.
So back to what you were saying with how to navigate it, it's almost like that the answer to that is different from day to day. Yes. So I want to approach it from, I guess, a couple of different directions. So bear with me as I go into each of those couple of different directions.
Yeah.
So one thing that I think I like to zoom out firstly, and for everyone to know that from my decades of research, this time was always going to come. This agenda has been planned for a very, very long time. Yes. And this was always going to come. And I know that when people talked about things like New World Order, social control, quarantines, where they're going to make you stay at home, and essentially martial law, whatever you want to call it, that is what it is. And people would call that conspiracy theory. However, here we are in a social control agenda under the guise of for our public health. So the fact that we are here now, in a way, and I know it sounds contrary, but in a way, part of that is a relief, because here we are. We're finally here. It's like fearing something your whole life. I don't know if anyone out there's been involved in something like a pending family court case, or, you know, something like that. And the fear of it is so great. And when you finally get there, as ugly and awful as it is, it's almost a relief, because, okay, we're here now. We just have to now get through it.
Yes, yes. And I can totally relate what you're saying, because before this all happened, I'm thinking, well, when is this shift going to happen? We want this transition. We want to get to a better world. We want to get to ascension. When is it going to happen? When is it going to happen? Now it's here. You're thinking, oh, here it is.
Yeah. Yeah. And it wasn't the lovely flash of light in the sky with the rainbow.
No.
with the rainbow, you know, aurora borealis, unfortunately, and it wasn't the Palladians coming down and beaming us up. And here is COVID. Wow, you know. And I remember when this COVID first hit, and all of a sudden it was like that scene in the Maxwell Smart movie, you know, where it's boom, 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 all the doors shutting.
Yeah.
And I realized, oh, this is it. And so, and I'm just going to sort of, you know, might be going all over the place here in the answer to your question. So something had to happen. Something had to happen to wake people up. And again, awakening is a multi-aspect process. We have to wake up to the greater control agenda, and we have to wake up to our potential as humanity, to our true potential as a free, awake, aware, conscious humanity. Something had to happen to be the trigger.
And
now we didn't know.
Something really big.
Something really big.
Yeah.
And we didn't know, is that going to be global earthquakes? Is it going to be a global, you know, mass landing of spaceships? Is it going to be a mass solar flare? Like, we didn't know what it would be, but we knew it would be something. So here we are. This is it. What I'm seeing actually is the greater the push to squeeze us with this social control agenda, the greater the push back.
Right. Yes.
So it's backfiring on them, because that particular, I'm going to talk in terms of timelines, you know, that particular timeline has run out of steam, and it's run out of energy, and it's run out of actual time. So when I see the two timelines, if you want to call it the New World Order timeline and the New Earth timeline, the New Earth timeline has come in. It's just time. It just is what it is. It's like January 1 is January 1. You can call it something else if you like, but it is what it is. And this other timeline, they're trying to get a piece of the pie for the next, you know, 5,126 years, as they have for the last 5,126 years, if we're talking Mayan calendar cycles.
Yep.
And it's like, well, no, you've had your turn. All the best. Thank you very much. It's now our turn and our time. So, of course, they're pushing, because they want to keep going with their control structure. And this new reality timeline's come in saying, well, actually, it's time for the light, and it's time for awakening. So it makes sense to me that they're pushing so hard. It also makes sense to me that the more they push, the crazier it gets. Like, you know, I'm saying to people, if you've ever read or watched Harry Potter, we're at the part of the movie where the Ministry of Magic has been taken over, and Dolores Umbridge is going around plastering ever-increasing random rules all over Hogwarts. You know, that's what this feels like, because we're literally getting emails now from school, no singing, you know.
Yes, I know. It's absolutely insane. It's also very, to me, Big Brother-ish, 1984, Brave New World, all those sort of dystopian sort of books that you've read. It's all that stuff combined into one.
It's all the books combined into one.
Yeah.
What they never showed in those sorts of movies, they'd show the one or two rebel person, you know, fighting back. What I'm seeing, like, if you go to the mainstream social medias, if you go to celebrity social medias, it's not one or two people pushing back. It's 99% of people pushing back.
Fantastic.
That's what I'm finding.
That's what we want. The unity, the unification of all of us coming together and pushing back. Absolutely.
Absolutely. And that's one of the things that I wanted to say also, is that unity, and every single voice counts. You know, we are a 7 billion plus piece jigsaw. And your piece counts, your voice counts. Don't ever think that what you're doing isn't enough. And I think that people always wonder, well, what do I do? And I think that whatever it is that you are compelled to do helps. And I want to use an example. I heard the other day someone had just lost their family member, and obviously as a family they were grieving. And she said they'd been supported so much by people who, you know, friends and families who'd rallied themselves around and created shifts. And so one person would be doing the groceries, drop it off at the person's house who was cooking. That person would cook a bunch of dinners, drop it off, you know, someone would come at the door and another family friend member would come and deliver it, right?
Yes.
So for the person cooking, it's too much for them to do the driving. For the person driving, look, I don't want to cook or go to the supermarket, but I'm happy to drive. And I think that's the same thing with us. So some of us, you know, are really good at creating lists of, okay, here's who to email. And other people who maybe have the knowledge, like there's a lady, is it Serena, the lawyer?
Yes.
Yeah, so she has the knowledge. She's a lawyer. She knows her biosecurity, health act inside out, back to front. She's like, here's the information. So everybody is doing their bit. And for people who feel, well, I don't really want to do anything active like that, pray, meditate, like anything you do.
Yes.
Yeah, and you know, anything you do counts. Anything that you feel counts. And don't be afraid. And a lot of people understandably are afraid to post things on social media because they're getting so much backlash from friends, from family members. So if you don't feel like doing that, like there was an anonymous poll in today's all of today's Australia's main media, from news.com.au to sbs.com. They're all doing polls based on Scott Morrison's remarks yesterday that the COVID vaccine.
I'm wondering how you know, fair those polls are if they're mainstream media, and how rigged they are. Because I saw one and I thought, oh, that's not accurate.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's a really good point as well. The ones I was seeing this morning were about 2/3 were saying no to the mandatory.
Good. That's good. Can I just say too that I think that they're great points that you've just made, that everyone has their own way of contributing. Personally, I feel for myself that when I'm actively doing something, when I see something that is not right happening in front of me, that's not just, I have to take action, I have to do something. Otherwise, I feel like my energy is being suppressed. I feel like I'm not having a voice. So for me, it's really important for my energy that I actually do something. And, you know, for anyone out there that doesn't know how to help and wants to help, please contact me, because I've got some fantastic initiatives that you can support and you can help with. So please contact me if that's something you'd like. But for I think to combat that feeling of you know, disempowerment and that, you know, I'm insignificant, I can't make a difference. I think to actually take action can be really powerful and empowering. If that's something that doesn't resonate for you, it doesn't feel right for you, like you say, meditating, praying, maybe creating circles of people, because I've had people contact me and say, look, I'd love to do more online, you know, meditations or group work together online, because we can't come together. So can we come together online and do that? And I've only got so much time. I can't do everything. So, you know, for people to be able to create those groups online and come together and do that, you know, or just to hold a high frequency for the planet, and to just beam beautiful, purified light out to you know, Melbourne, to Victoria, to Sydney, to Australia, to the world. And, you know, those sorts of things. So that there's some really powerful things. I think people can even make lists. What can I do to help? Make a list and then work through your list, and then you feel like you are achieving something. I think that's a great thing to put in there. And, you know, you've made some wonderful points to combat that fear, that feeling of, oh, this is just happening to me. And you know, we are infinitely divine co-creators. We have the ability to create anything, and we've totally forgotten our divine birthright to be infinite potential. So I think just to remember that is crucial as well. Yeah. So you were talking also about you know, all these rules and everything like that that are coming out now, and how people are dealing with it. any other ideas there for what people can do to stay in that well-being zone, a zone of, and I think, that neutrality can be helpful too, because when we get really emotionally caught up in it, you can really sink very quickly. And I'm noticing people going up and down as the news comes out, like Scott Morrison's announcement, he wants mandatory vaccinations, and then it's another wave, So what do you think about holding that point of neutrality and that sort of
You've just perfectly asked the right question of what I was, wanting to get into next, and perfect. Because I think there is so much up and down, and there is also so much like division with people, with friends, with family members, and it almost creating an awful division with humanity. Whereas I'm seeing it team humanity. We're all really wanting to get to the same place. And so how I want to address that is something that I've been talking quite a bit about lately, is that as humans, our earliest human biology is still in us. It doesn't matter that it's the year, in the calendar 2020, but essentially we've been here for, hundreds of thousands of years. Our earliest DNA is still in us, and that is all about survival. Okay, so that's how we're wired. Our deepest DNA doesn't really think about the fact where I'm living in Sydney, you're living in Melbourne, it's 2020. We're wired for survival. And if you want to follow me around here, I'm going to draw a little circle. So from survival, we think, okay, how do we survive? We need to feel safe. Okay. And then we go from there to, how do I feel safe? I want to feel in control. Okay. So this is why we have this need as humans to feel in control. Follow me around the circle. In order to feel in control, we want to be able to understand what's going on. We want to be able to even somehow predict what's going on. Now, what happens when we're not feeling in control? We're not feeling we can understand what's going on. We're not feeling like we can predict what's going on. Information is changing by the day. It's been such a schmozzle of information from one day to the next. So that leads back, we're starting to move back up the circle now. All of a sudden, we're feeling out of control, which means we're not feeling safe, which is triggering that earliest part of our human biology of survival.
Yes.
So it's this panic. And it doesn't matter that there's not a woolly mammoth or a saber-toothed tiger at our cave door. Our body's stress response is feeling as if it is.
Yes.
So we are hearing, and everybody's coming at that from different angles. So some people are hearing mandatory vax, and it's absolutely triggering that fight, flight, freeze, stress response. That is going to affect my survival. Really frightened about that. On the other hand, and this is how we can all understand our fellow brothers and sisters, some people are hearing that mandatory vax and going, thank God. That makes me feel safe. That makes me feel in control. So if we can look at everybody and everybody's responses from that angle of, we're all just wanting to feel safe, and we're all wanting to feel in control. For some of us, that's I need to push back against the vaccines and the mask wearing, because that does not make me feel safe. That does not make me feel in control. That makes me feel like it is pushing my actual survival on this planet to the edge. And other people might be feeling, actually, masks and vaccines, they make me feel safe. They make me feel in control. So rather than arguing with each other, I feel like we need psychologists out there, not politicians, to help everyone understand, instead of fighting against each other and fighting against family members, everyone is really responding to this in a way that makes them feel safe and that makes them feel in control. Now, the really interesting thing that's happening now is what you thought made you feel safe and what you thought made you feel in control, for a lot of people, is changing, because I'm hearing from people who their thought process around that today is completely different to what it was 3, 4, 5 months ago. People who perhaps were totally fine with vaccination 6 months ago are very, very worried about a rushed vaccination, for example.
Yes.
So it's very interesting what's happening now. So I guess bringing it back to the individual, if you are feeling anxious, if your heart's, thumping, I want you to know that you are experiencing our normal, natural body's physiological response to stress, which is fight, flight, or freeze. So there's people out there fighting, taking action. There are people flight, and that's where people are overusing at the moment alcohol, drugs. I don't want to know. La 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 la. I don't want to know. And then there's freeze, and that's where we're getting into people who are numbing out, plummeting into depression. Mental health call center lines, as you know, has gone up 25%. Self-harm gone up 33%. We don't yet have the statistics on suicide, but you can imagine that would have gone up by possibly similar numbers. I can't say, but from what I'm hearing, that has also increased. And we'll know those numbers later on, sure, I hope. So bringing it back to my main point, I guess, is staying neutral. And what I try and do is I'm trying to not be in, I call it my McJudgy pants. I'm trying to not wear McJudgy pants, and honor the fact that there are the freedom fighters among us. And there's also people who do feel that a mask is keeping them safe. So I'm trying to kind of be in this neutral position where my greater purpose and my great love is for humanity. And I want us all to get through this and out the other side. And I feel like everyone's doing their bit to do that. I believe we will get through it, but it's like that awful part of the court case where we're all having to provide our statements and our affidavits, and it's so awful. Yes. And we know what the end result's going to be, but it's such an awful time. It's like the birth canal, of a birth process, and it's
absolutely. It's just triggering our deepest fears, isn't it? Like you're saying, the survival fears. And I think that it is a brilliant point to remember that whenever someone reacts to something, they're doing it because they feel fear or they feel unsafe. And that is their only way of responding in the moment in their best capacity, because they don't feel supported, and they don't feel safe. So I think when you understand reactions like that, and you don't, if somebody says to you something that is like abusive in response to a comment that you've made about something, remembering that that's coming from fear. So when you meet that with love, you neutralize it. When you meet that with fear, you exacerbate it, you magnify it. So I think whenever somebody responds in a way that is not ideal, that is not the right response, always go to the place of understanding and empathy where that person is responding because they're in deep fear and they're only trying to survive. Unless, it's one of that 1 or 2% of people that are just in control of the planet and have pure evil. But we won't go there. I mean, the majority of people are good and benevolent, so that's not the issue. But yeah, I think that that's so important to just always bring it back to that core understanding that the person is doing the best that they can, and they're just trying to live their life in peace. We all are. And the other point, it's like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You have the base fundamental needs, which are just, shelter, food, sleep, the survival ones. So it's, if you want to look at psychologically at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, we're going right to the bottom rung here. just
Yeah.
trying to survive and to manage at that level. The self-actualization part of it, we've sort of come down the triangle to the bottom because we're just trying to, get through this intensity at this time. So that's a great thing. And I think the other point that I wanted to make, that you were talking about in terms of holding that neutrality and not going into a panic and things like that, is to be really mindful of our breath at the minute, to really focus on our breath and breathing deeply whenever we feel stressed, just going straight to our breath and taking those breaths. And in a sense, I like to do it in a way where I rise above and I look down. It's like there's a play going on and a stage in front of me, and I'm rising above, I'm objective, and I'm looking at it all playing out, but I'm not part of it. I'm sort of like not attached. I'm separated to it. So that's a really good way of gaining neutrality and just understanding that this life is playing out. It's like a stage, and if we look at it in that way, we can sometimes get into that space of neutrality and non-emotional attachment, which can be really beneficial and helpful at times.
Definitely. And I think that with the breathing, that's such good advice, especially now with the fact that a lot of people sleep with their devices, whether it's their phone or their iPad next to their bedside on their bedside table. And last thing at night, first thing in the morning, that's what a lot of people are doing. We're reaching over and grabbing our phone, checking to see what's happened overnight, what's the news of the day, what's the tweets of the day, what's the social media of the day. And look, I'm an info, lover. I always love to keep on top of what's going on as well. But something that I recommend people do is last thing at night and first thing in the morning, do 10 deep breaths. You can do more if you want, obviously, but just start with 10. Yeah. And you'll see the difference. And I even for myself am taking this advice. Like if I wake up and I reach for my phone, I even remember what I said in, the workshop or the interview like this, and I take my 10 deep breaths, because starting the day and ending each day with a bombardment of the external, we're not getting the chance to really be clear at any time of how do we feel inside, what's our inner GPS telling us, what's our inner GPS guiding us to do, what's our intuition saying. So it just gives that little circuit breaker of, okay, I just need to just push that out for a second. And also what it does is, instead of going out into the day with the noise as your foundation, you're starting the day with your inner calm, clear, peaceful state and space as the foundation. So when we do get those, those press briefings coming at us from the daily political mandate, we're hearing it from that calm, clear, in a peaceful state, rather than hearing it on top of all the other stuff that we read this morning and the last night. And the other thing is that they've shown now that the state that you go to sleep with at night, so the thoughts, the worries that are in your mind, is the state that you're waking up with in the morning. So it's very important, that sort of 10, 20 seconds before you go to sleep at night, to make that as calm and as peaceful as possible, because that has such a researched impact on your state of mind and your state of emotions when you're waking up the next morning.
Oh, that's a great point. I don't know if you can see the painting behind me, but it's dolphins swimming. Yeah. So often, before I go to sleep at night, I'll go swimming with the dolphins, or I'll go to a beautiful garden where there's all these stunningly picturesque, flowers of different types and different colours, and there's, fairies and unicorns and all this sort of thing. This is often what I picture in my head just before I go to sleep, and it's so therapeutic. It's just beautiful. And I would encourage people to get those sort of visualizations in their mind just as they're going to sleep. Something that really resonates for you as being a beautiful place, somewhere special, a stunning beach or a beautiful sunset or somewhere like that. And also in the morning, what I do, and that was a great idea with the breath work, morning and night. What I do too is I bring pure white light down through my head, through my body, and then I radiate that pure white light out to, my town, to my state, to my country, and then out to the world, and just visualize it blanketing and surrounding everyone. And I think if we all sent that pure white light to the world on a regular basis, everything would shift really quickly. It's a beautiful energy because you can feel it's a very high frequency energy. If you're connecting, always, tap into how it feels. And if it's a, high vibration, you're connecting to the right energy. So that those sorts of things are really important as well. Ultraviolet purple flame, which transmutes negativity, transmutes karma, transmutes darkness. That's a great one too. So yeah, great to give people, I think, ideas like this for how they can move forward at the moment. So we've been talking for quite a while now. It's just flown by. So it's so wonderful to talk with you. So in terms of your last important messages that you'd like to give people at this time, such a crucial time at the moment, I just want to implore to people, just hang in there, hold out, because this is the most intense time. It could get a bit more intense before it gets better, but they are predicting, for example, on the 21st of December, there's this going to be incredible influx of light. And all the cosmic energies are indicating this. So when all this beautiful white light, it could just shift things immediately. And are you getting a thing of energy?
Yes.
Me too. So I can tell you were. So I am as well. Like, when you have a spiritual truth, you get all this sort of tingling down your body. And so if we can just hang out for the 21st of December and know that things are going to get so much better, and it's not going to take too long. It's going to happen relatively quickly. So please, doesn't matter how you're feeling, just do everything you can to self-nurture, self-care, and it's going to get better in not too far away. So what can you say to that, Dana?
Well, you're just a telepathic psychic lady, because everything you say is like, that's exactly what I wanted to talk about next. So
we're so on the same page here.
One day, like in a couple of years, we'll just be doing this telepathic.
We won't need to talk at all.
Yeah, that's exactly what I wanted to talk about, is that if this time is becoming too intense, and it is, sometimes you feel like you're in a vice. I want people to, and I'll get onto the astrology of it in a second, but I want people to know and go back to the Indigenous people and go back to their Indigenous prophecies. Everybody from, the Native American, Lakota people, Hopi people, the Mayan culture, the Aboriginal culture, they've all prophesied this time. They've all prophesied. It doesn't matter if you call it the New Age, the New Earth, the 1,000 years of golden light. It doesn't matter what you call it. They've all prophesied this time. And we all know these sayings, it's always the darkest before dawn, and it is. And for anyone who's, happened to birth a child, midwives always say that they know when a baby is about a crown, because it's when the mum starts saying, I can't do this, I just want to go home and just leave the baby in there. Right?
Yes. And
that's where we're at. That we're in that crowning phase, and very interestingly enough, Corona is, Spanish for crown. So on that note, that's I feel we are definitely, that's the destiny that's destined for us. That doesn't mean we just sit back and go, oh, okay, because the mum, you can't just sit back and go, okay, well, the baby will just birth itself. Like, you have to participate. If you're going through labor, you have to participate in the labor process, and that sometimes means pushing. Sometimes it happens sooner rather than later, sometimes it happens in a different way, but we're in that birth canal now, and we are all being urged to do whatever it is that we are being urged to do.
And I totally agree. I think proactivity at the moment is really important.
And it isn't comfortable. And just on the astrological things, I also, and that's why when you were speaking, I was just getting goosebumps like all through me. especially all down my arm here. So on December 21, we have the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction, and that there's something that's it's lighting up for me around then. And one of the reasons it's lighting up is we've been traveling through a very difficult period of time, which is Saturn in Capricorn, and Saturn was also close together with Pluto. Pluto is it's that great transformer, but it's also the scuba diver. It takes us into the yuck of the yuck that we have to see, and whether it's inner or outer, macro, micro, personal, collective, we have to go into the depths in order to see what's there. And sometimes there's yuck stuff there, but that's also where the treasure chest is with the gold. You know, you can't have one without the other. We just have to go in there. So Pluto and Saturn have been making this year feel so difficult. And also Saturn in Capricorn, on the one hand, you've got Saturn, which is that authoritarian, the disciplinarian, it's the father. You've got Capricorn. Saturn is the ruling planet of Capricorn. Capricorn is also that energy. It's that, it's the systems, the structures, the politicians, the religions, the media. It's everything that are the authoritarian governing bodies to which we have acquiesced our power. And that's, thank you, because I want to end on this. This is all about us stepping into not only our power, but stepping into our sovereignty, our autonomy as souls, as adult souls, rather than looking at these systems and structures as the know-all, be-all adults, parents of humanity. We now have to step into that. And it's kind of like a changing of the guard. You know, when you first move out of home, when you first get your own job, your own home, oh gosh, I have to pay the rent for the first time in my life. That's what we are all being called to do as humans. So the parents have to make this, how it used to be, so restrictive, so controlling, to force us to say, I've got to get out of here. So in that weird way, they're almost doing us a favor, because if home was comfortable, we just live at home for the rest of our lives. It has to be, it has to feel restrictive to an extreme for us to say, I can't live like this for my whole life. I've got to get out there. I've got to live my own life. I've got to be free. I've got to do what I've got to do. So then we get to December 21, and what Saturn in Capricorn, by the way, has been doing, going forward, back, forward over the same points that it was going over from February, March this year. So that's why we're having all of these so-called second wave lockdowns in Melbourne, in New Zealand. It's going over the exact same points. And for people who want to look at the Sabian symbols, that is fascinating, because the degrees of Capricorn that Saturn has been going back and forward over, every degree in the Sabian symbols of astrology have a theme, and it's going over the degrees of Capricorn, which have themes like a group of men having a secret meeting about the future of the world, right?
Yes.
So that's these later degrees of Capricorn, from 25 degrees Capricorn to then leading up to 0 degrees Aquarius, which is happening on December 21. Now, what we're moving forward, and I will end in a second, as we move forward from December 21 to the Saturn in Aquarius, this is where we're really at the nitty-gritty of the fork in the road of finding out what did we choose as a humanity. Because Saturn in Aquarius can go one of two ways. Aquarius is humanity. It's freedom. It is new ideas, new cures. It's the Nikola Tesla technology coming into being.
Yes.
Saturn can go one of two ways. It can be, we finally take responsibility and authorship of our direction as a humanity and true people power. The people are at the wheel. Or Saturn could manifest as that controlling father still trying to direct Aquarius, because Aquarius is also connected to technology. So that's that inorganic versus organic, the inorganic AI timeline where they want us all microchipped and facial recognition and, 5G. And
right. Do you think there's a timeline split that's going to happen where some people that are choosing that reality go that way and the others that are choosing a higher ascension timeline go the other way? What's your thoughts on that? Because a lot of people say there's a split that's going to happen.
Yeah. Do you know what? I can't say for sure.
Yeah.
So, like I sometimes feel, is it going to be a case of where almost the two realities are almost, coexisting on the planet, and some people choose one, some people choose other. But I just keep seeing people coming over to this one, and you can see it now. You can see it in the social media feeds and the comments that people are saying. More and more people are jumping ship to this one.
Right.
The more that they, the more that they push that timeline,
yes.
people are saying, I don't want to be a robot. I don't want facial recognition. I don't want to be microchipped. I don't want that stuff. Like you said, people just want to live peacefully, healthily, be with their family, and that's what they want. Dolores Cannon, if you're familiar with her work,
yes,
she took so many people through hypnotherapy sessions, and they actually saw almost like a splitting, like a two Earths ending up.
Yes.
I don't know. I still wonder, is there going to be that flash of light at some point with the rainbow? My son has always talked about that ever since he was little. He's now 8 years old. He's always said,
solar flash you're talking about, the solar flash, the great solar flash.
The solar flash, yeah. He's always talked about the rainbow, and go to the rainbow, follow the rainbow. And he said Earth needs a break, and Earth needs a rest. And he talks about that. He said that when he was about 3 years old. Earth needs a rest, and we all need a little break. And he's often said when he said, don't go to the white light, Mama, go to the rainbow light.
Right.
So it was he was, ever since he was little, and this wasn't my, putting it onto him. It was stuff.
It's just
stuff he was saying.
Yes.
I do feel there's still more in the movie to come.
Yeah.
What? How? I don't know. But as a last final word, hold steady, hold to your center, hold on to the light, and honestly, we will get through. So many of us didn't come here awake or to feeling that resonance with being a light worker or a star seed or a truth warrior, whatever you want to call us. So many of us didn't come here in order to get to this brick in the wall and go, oh, well, that was fun, out we go. We didn't come here for that. We didn't come here with these visions of a new earth and a new reality for it not to pass. The indigenous prophecies haven't existed for thousands of years, only to say, oh, brick wall, oh, okay, we were wrong. Life doesn't work that way. We're like plants. We always grow toward the light. Now, are we going to grow toward the light in an easy way, or are we going to have to grow around bricks and crap that's covering us? Well, okay, that may be where we're at right now, but we always grow toward the light. So
true. Oh, that's brilliant. I really love that as a final point. I think it's a great place to end. And it's our choice. We can stand together, unify. We can make this transition smoother, or we can stand back and allow it all unfold more slowly and not do anything. So that's the way I look at it. But thank you so much, Dana. That was such a wonderful and inspiring talk. I think exactly what people need to hear at the moment. So I'm going to share this far and wide, and I hope other people do as well. I have all your contact details below on my YouTube channel here at Arise Humanity. So please, if you'd like to contact Dana, please contact her at the details below. And I can't thank you enough for today. I think it's been very inspirational and really important information at the moment as well. So thank you.
Medyhne, thank you. Thank you so much. Loved it. And just thank you. Chat anytime. Thank you.
Beautiful. Much love.
Bye.
Bye.